But, you know, we talked a little bit about my son's a paraplegic, and he has a lot of trouble in his feet, in between his toes. I'm trying to keep them as dry as I can. And I know a lot of people out there might have, you know, the same problem with the circulation isn't great. And we talked about inside the toes. Maybe you can explain a little bit what we can do about inside the toes.
Well, just with general foot care, keeping between the toes dry is one of the basic ideas that we try to get across to everybody, diabetic or non-diabetic, that you want to wash your feet every day with lukewarm water and moisturizing soap of some kind. Test the water with your hand first, and then make sure that you dry them very well, particularly between the toes, as you're saying, because you can get not just a fungal infection, but the skin can crack open when it's too wet, and you can end up with a bacterial infection on top of that. So some tips for that are, you know, drying really well between the toes, using some powder maybe between the toes and some alcohol to dry in that area, as long as there are no breaks in the skin. Use an antifungal spray if you need to, and some lamb's wool, which is, you can buy it in packets at the store. That's the one thing I forgot. But it looks like wool, and it comes in packages, and you just tear off some and you weave it through the toes, between and underneath, as in your son's case, because the toes are bent down. And that's very absorbent. So it
will keep the toes
dry and separated. The trick is to keep them separated too throughout the day while they're in shoes and socks.
So I see now there's some props in there, some pictures. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the picture and see if we can get that picture of that.
Well,
or get that up on the screen.
This is just a picture book of feet. So I'll start with the most common thing that I would say I see people for are corns and calluses.
I think we can just turn it probably a little bit more. No, the other way.
Okay.
I don't know if they can.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does that work?
Camera.
So corns and calluses, and that's what most of this stuff is for. They are dead skin buildup over bony areas or over areas that are receiving a lot of friction as you walk. And they can be caused by deformities such as a hammer toe, which is pictured here, which is a bend in the toe. So the toe is bent like that, and in the shoe then you get something on top of the toe, a corn, that's usually called a corn, from all of the rubbing. And then you can also get them around bunions. This is a bunion, and you can have a bunion on the other side of the foot as well. This is by the big toe joint and the little toe joint. And the rubbing can cause calluses and corns. These are underlying surgical problems, but my approach in my practice is usually to try to treat things as conservatively as possible until you really reach the end point that you just can't do your activities of daily living or wear any shoes at all. So some of the things I brought are, in addition to shaving, there are some different kinds of padding that you can use for these types of things. This is actually inside out, but these are, you can find these in the store. They're a little silicone gel, and they're a little sleeve.
So where would you put that on a toe?
Well, you'd cut it down to size, and then you'd put this, so the silicone is the padding on top. And so if you have a hammer toe, you would put it.
And would you put it over the hammer?
Exactly. So that the pressure, there's not so much pressure in one spot. It's kind of spread out by the silicone pad.
Now, does that help with a little bit about the pain and everything? It would ease it a little bit with that on it?
It does. It helps with the pain, and it helps slow down how quickly these developed. Some other ones, as in your son's case, if he were walking and he had his toes bent over like that, you have this kind of pad. I have it in, there's a silicone version, which is a jelly, and then also this just leather version. And you put it over so that when you step down, this helps prevent the toe from hitting.
So if you show the back of it, so that would be the bottom of your foot.
Right.
So, and that would try to keep it from hitting the bottom.
Exactly. The toes are a little shorter, so basically what it does is
I hope so.
straightens the toe. Not in everybody.
I see some other. There's
some other. Well, for corns between the toes, that's another common place people get them from the toes being bent up like this and hitting against each other. We can put a pad between the toes. Again, these are silicone. They come also in a foam type of thing. Very simple. So you shave it down, and then you just keep this between the toes when you're in your shoes, and it prevents the two toes from hitting each other. And then when you have things on the bottom of the foot, calluses, sometimes you just use something as simple as moleskin. Stick it, it sticks right onto your foot. So
And you put that in the ball of your foot?
exactly, if you have a callus in this area on your foot. And then if you have a corn on the bottom, we have pads like this that you can put, again, stick it right on your foot.
So now the corn
would be in
the
between.
opening.
Right, so when you step down,
Okay,
it's
yeah,
taking the
it will
pressure
put
off.
pressure on you.
Right, and then same idea with these for over the top of the toe, little pads. You see these at the store, these little circular pads that you would put on top of the toe. Now, one point with that I'd like to really emphasize is not to use medicated pads from the store without supervision of
Oh,
your
really?
podiatrist or your primary, somebody, because you can create a bigger problem than what you start with. You start with the corn, you end with an ulcer because the acid, you overuse it or your skin is too sensitive for that acid and it eats away at it. So,
See, now I didn't do that. I would just say you can get stuff in there and they tell you, this is medicine on it, it's going to help you. And now I learned something, not to do that until you check with your doctor and make sure. So, I mean, I'm learning a lot about, this is, I'm looking at all these things. What is that?
This is a cream. So I've got two examples here. This is the simple one, Bag Balm from CVS, that I have a lot of people using on their heels at night. The trick, if you have very dry, cracked heels, the trick is to put it on about a half an hour before you go to bed because it's very greasy stuff. So, and you don't want it to come off on the bed sheets. So you put it on about a half an hour before you go to bed and put your socks on with it and let the socks absorb some of the grease and take the socks off before you go to bed. And then you've still got the balm working, but not getting everywhere.
So now, could you wear that? Could you wear your socks all night with that balm, or would that be bad?
No, that's actually the idea, the better idea, but most people don't like to sleep in socks, I find, when I ask people to sleep in socks. And this cream is another example. This is formulated for diabetics. It's a cream that dissolves dead skin, literally. It has something in it that, you start off with a big thick callus, and if you put it on at night with a sock in the morning, what happens is the skin literally just starts flaking off. It just dissolves the skin, and it's formulated specifically for diabetics. It's safe. It doesn't have any acids in it, nothing that can cause any harm. So,
what about that scraper? You know how they sell on that kind of, there's so many different scrapers on. And I just wonder sometimes, seniors have problem and they have the scraper, but I'm always so scared. What if they go too far with that? What if they cut into the skin? It's just, I'm not sure. I think these must be a better alternative to use them than to use the scraper or different things. Because you wonder about the scraper, how far?
Anything sharp. If you have, in seniors, even if you're not diabetic, you can start to lose sensation in your feet or have poor circulation. Even say if you smoked 30 years ago, that can still affect your circulation. Even if you quit 30 years ago, it can affect your circulation now. So you never really know how good your healing ability is, or if you have full feeling. People aren't always aware that they don't have full feeling. So using sharp things on the skin, in my opinion, is not really a good idea. A better option would be a pumice stone, and to just do that on a daily basis. Either put it by sit on the toilet. I don't recommend trying to stand one-legged in the shower.
No, we don't want anybody doing that.
No, but it works better when your feet are wet. So,
they could probably soak in a little basin and then maybe sitting down and use the pumice stone, with their feet, and then take one foot out and put one foot back in. So that's to say, please, whatever you do, don't do it in the shower. We don't want any problems.
Do not try to balance on one foot in the shower.